Hey everybody! And a warm welcome to a new story. Today's story is called Entitled Aunt Tries to Pick the Lock on the Door to My Sister and I's Bedroom. From the Entitled Parents subreddit. I hope you like it and will enjoy the time. If you like my content and this kind of videos, please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. As always, this story is told from the OP's point of view. Enjoy it. Cast: me, the majestic gummy bear, Sarah, my twin, Kevin, my service dog, aunt, woman who is dead to me, entitled cousin, cousin who is also dead to me, uncle, Sarah and I's uncle. My aunt came to spend the week with us while she was in town. As a result, this was by far the worst week of my life so far. Aunt is the type of person who firmly believes that a guest basically owns everything. And the host should do everything in their power to accommodate the guest regardless of any reason. Before anyone asks, no, Aunt didn't go crazy whenever we didn't give her something either she or cousin wanted. Aunt would either huff and mutter under her breath or make it a point that everyone knew how unhappy she was by talking about it loudly on the phone. But cousin, however, would act like we just murdered his firstborn. At first, everything was fine. Uncle explained the extensive ground rules that aunt and cousin needed to follow. That I was mute and why I needed Kevin, along with how to differentiate between Sarah and I. We dye our hair differently. I'm not going to go into detail of the rules except for the major one, which is also the one that cousin, and subsequently aunt, took extreme issue with. Don't go into Sarah and number 31's room. Period. I know that Uncle went to great lengths to explain this rule and the importance of it. Why, you may ask? Because Aunt argued with Uncle about why the rule even existed. And Uncle ended up having to raise his voice, which quickly ended the argument altogether, finishing it with the threat of kicking aunt and cousin out of the house if he so much as hears a hint about either of them trying to enter the room. Of course, Sarah and I quickly learned how seriously they took the rule. Now, the door to Sarah and I's room has two locks on it, a deadbolt and doorknob lock. To those who may be wondering, Uncle had them installed per Sarah and I's request shortly after Uncle was granted full custody of us. Uncle, of course, has a key in case anything happens, but he respects Sarah and I's need for privacy, so he just calls for one of us if he needs us. For obvious reasons, neither aunt nor cousin were given a key. For the first 2 days there wasn't any issue. As usual, I would go straight to our room so neither of them could try to interact with me. But that didn't stop cousin from incessantly knocking and asking to come in to play on our Xbox. Sarah would tell him no, but when she wasn't there I'd just slide a note under the door which promptly said, "No." Cliché, yes, but neither Sarah nor I trusted cousin or aunt with our cell numbers, so notes were the next best thing. The third day, aunt was waiting for Sarah and I to get home. Aunt cousin's name wants to play on your game system, it's an Xbox, so can you please let him in so that he can play? It'll only be for a few hours and you can sit with him if you want. Sarah, sorry but he's not allowed inside and neither are you. Aunt's name, but he is allowed to play on the Wii. It's already hooked up to the TV in the living room. I think the controllers are next to the Wii itself. Aunt, he thinks the games for it are too childish and I agree. So, will you please let him in so that he can play? You two are working all day anyway so it won't be a problem. I would like to point out that the only Wii games we have is the Metroid Prime series and Metroid Other M. For those who haven't played those games, they are far from childish. Sarah pointed that out, but Aunt wasn't having any of it. To her, games in general were all childish and we should let him in to play or move the Xbox into the living room. An option that was simply out of the question. Sarah unlocked the door and had to actively block Aunt from trying to step inside while we went into our room. Aunt didn't like this, but when Sarah casually asked if I had texted Uncle that we got home safely, Aunt backed off with a huff. Yes, Aunt made a point to not mention anything whenever Uncle was around. According to Sarah, both Aunt and cousin never talked about our room when he was home. They'd mind their own business or make small talk with Uncle. They eventually stopped trying to talk to Sarah after she yelled at cousin to leave her alone. The next day, Thursday, Uncle and Sarah had to go to the store for some things, I forget what. I didn't think much of it and decided to play on the Xbox. Around maybe 4 hours, I lose track of time when playing. After they left, I heard an odd scratching noise at the door. It wasn't Kevin because he was sitting next to me. I texted Sarah asking if she and Uncle were back yet, but she replied saying that they were still at the store but would be home soon. By then, the doorknob was shaking and I heard Aunt telling cousin to be careful and you can't force the lock. As soon as I heard that, I texted Sarah what was going on. Sarah's response surprised me. Sarah, text, get on that other game you play that says you died a lot and turn the volume all the way up. Like, the time when you first played it. She was talking about Dark Souls 3 and it took me a moment to understand what she meant. Then it clicked. When booting the game up, it'll show two companies, game engines. Not sure what the brand names shown are or something along those lines, then it'll play loud choir-like music before showing the main menu. Basically, when I first got the game, my ears were ringing for almost 30 minutes. And Uncle was swearing every other word while yelling to turn the volume down. Since then, I have the TV muted, then slowly turn the volume up until it's at a comfortable level that isn't on par with an air raid siren blaring in your house. I wish I could say that the end result of Sarah's proposition was more satisfying, but it wasn't. Right after the loud blaring of dramatic choir music, I managed to catch what I presume was FCK, subsequently followed by a heavy thud, then some smaller thuds. I guess the music startled cousin or aunt and they tripped while trying to leave, but I don't know. The music is, as I said, really loud and I had my headphones on cause I didn't want my ears to be ringing for a while. According to Sarah, when she and Uncle questioned Aunt, she kept demanding to know what kind of games I'm playing. Why I would play it so loud, and what reason would I have to play games in the first place. Aunt then accused me of ruining her nap and nearly giving her a heart attack in the process. When Sarah asked why she was trying to pick the lock, Sarah mentioned the two little statements I overheard. Aunt claimed to have no idea what Sarah was talking about and that I was clearly hearing things if I play games at that volume all the time. Aunt demanded that I apologize to her and cousin for having the TV at max volume and scaring Aunt like that, but Uncle immediately shot her down, telling her that if she ever dared to do that again then he'd kick her out. When Aunt pointed out that he previously said he wouldn't hesitate to, Uncle said, "Uncle, well, if you'd prefer I immediately take the girls at their word, then the door is right over there." Sarah then explained that Aunt wasted no time in trying to correct herself and apologizing. But Uncle brushed her off. Aunt did a lot more, but that's for another post when I get the time. Now, you may be wondering why we wouldn't let Aunt or cousin into our room. Why we didn't just move the Xbox in the living room. The reason is that Sarah and I have a very deep distrust towards anyone in general. Double for anyone in our family, which was developed over the entirety of our time in high school, 5 years. When Uncle told us about Aunt's impending arrival, we really weren't sure what to think. To Sarah and I, our family is dead to us. So finding out that we had an aunt who hasn't disowned us was a bit of a shock. But we weren't about to welcome them with open arms. Uncle made our views very clear to Aunt and even went so far as to have her explain to Sarah that she understood our apprehensiveness. I couldn't bring myself to be there because of my anxiety about the whole situation, so Sarah explained it to me afterwards. So Aunt knew full well just why we were refusing to let either of them into our room where we spent a vast majority of our time. With Aunt and cousin in the house, our room was the only place we could go to relax in peace. So we weren't about to let someone we only just met into our one place that we can call our own. I'll post some more stories about Aunt and cousin if any of you would like to see more. What do you think about this story? Tell me your thought in the comments. If you like the story and the content, please leave a like, subscribe and share this video. Also have a look into my playlist for more entertaining stories.